Welcome to the Travel Guide of Provence. Provence, a region in southeastern France bordering Italy and the Mediterranean Sea, is known for its diverse landscapes, from the southern Alps and Camargue plains to rolling vineyards, olive groves, pine forests, and lavender fields. To the south is the Côte d'Azur, or French Riviera, where the elegant city of Nice and glamorous resort towns such as Saint-Tropez can line the coast. In this video you will see Lacoste commune in the Vaucluse department in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region in southeastern France, Camargue, a natural region located south of Arles, the Valensole Plateau lavender fields. At the top of the stunning hill village of Eze in the Provençal Hills is the beautiful Exotic Garden of Eze, Citadelle De Saint-Tropez, historic 17th century fortress now housing a museum with nautical exhibits and a scenic roof terrace. The Old Town Aix-en-Provence, that is city's ancient heart, where people have lived and worked since Roman times. Palais des Papes, a historical palace located in Avignon, a French national park located on the Mediterranean coast in Bouches-du-Rhône, and many other popular tourist spots. The small town of Lacoste is located in the Vaucluse department in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region of southern France. It is a charming old picturesque town situated on a hill overlooking Bienvenu and the Luberon Mountains, approximately 7 kilometers from Menerbes and just as much from Goult. The steep and cobbled streets of Lacoste are pretty impressive. Lacoste Castle is famous for being owned by the Marquis de Sade. This castle is at the very top of the hill, so the walk can be a bit of an effort. However, it is worth a little sacrifice for the beautiful views. Lacoste embraced Protestantism in the 16th century. This was seen as an affront to the authority of the Pope because the village bordered the Papal States of Comtat-Benicene. Unlike Menerbes, Lacoste has been part of Provence since 1481. By 1533 the village had lost many of its inhabitants, which forced Balthazar, the lord of Lacoste, to sign an act of habitation in order to encourage Waldensian families to the village. The Waldensians were a Christian movement persecuted from the 12th century onward. When the Waldensians adopted the ideas of the Reformation in 1532, further persecution was directed against them by the Parliament of Aix. Head to Western Europe's largest delta, where the Rhône River meets the Mediterranean Sea, and you'll find a lesser-known side of Provence. The Camargue spreads like a fan from the ancient Roman city of Arles, and in its folds lie green rice paddies, rose-colored salt flats, grass-filled marshes, and wide, wind-swept beaches. Nearly 400 species of birds call it home, as do prized black bulls and indigenous horses tended by guardians, the local cowboys who bolster the region's Wild West reputation. The Camargue is a mosaic of color, light, and mood, says resident Frédéric Lamoureux, director of the Ornithological Park of Pont de Gau. A tableau of land and water, wildlife and passionate people, it's like nowhere else in France. Both resident and migratory birds flock to the Ornithological Park of Pont de Gau, built by Frédéric Lamoureux's grandfather in 1949. 4 manicured miles of walking trails bring you to close-up views of waterfowl in the thousands, including the vibrant pink flamingos. To some, there's nothing that epitomizes the appeal of Provence more than the purple rows of lavender that pepper the landscape every summer. The lavender fields of Provence represent a change of seasons, a ripening of the earth, and a time where life slows to the mercy of the sun's strong rays. The Provence lavender fields are among the best in the world, and they're certainly among the most famous. Come early summer, when the spring poppies have all but disappeared, bright lavender flowers start to transform the already beatific landscape into a patchwork of color. Early July is the best time to visit lavender fields in Provence. The entire region is peppered with vibrant purple fields. And, if you get in before the school holidays, which normally start after the first week of July, you're more likely to beat the crowds. The Valensole Plateau is famous the world over for its lavender fields, but it's also home to impressive historical sites, golden fields of wheat and sunflowers, charming Provençal villages, and deep turquoise lakes. If you're visiting Provence in August, you may be worried about missing out on seeing the lavender fields at all, but there are still a few lavender fields in bloom in August. There's no doubt that the Valensole Plateau creates the most popular Provence lavender route. And it's the birthplace of many an iconic photo of Provence lavender. The landscape here is fairly flat, but it has just the right amount of gently swelling soil to give the rigid rows of lavender some dimension, creating the swoon-worthy fields you're no doubt longing for. Exotic Garden of Eze, a garden in the sky, perched at 249 meters above sea level, the Jardin d'Eze is the ideal place to soak up the atmosphere of the French Riviera. Linger at one of the peaceful viewpoints overlooking one of the world's most beautiful panoramas, or discover Eze's history and traditions as you stroll through the gardens. The Citadelle is a large 17th-century stone-walled fort on the hill above Street Tropez. Scenic old fortress turned into an interesting, unpretentious naval museum, with stunning 380 degrees views. Saint-Tropez Citadel has a very interesting hexagonal shape and guards the entire city from above. Its walls were built at the beginning of the 17th century, and it is one of the best spots for Saint-Tropez sightseeing. While you are there, you might also want to visit Musée d'Histoire Maritime, where you can learn stories about the maritime past of this beautiful city. Though Saint-Tropez is famous for its glamour and glitz, the city also has a rich and eventful past. The Saint-Tropez Citadelle De Saint-Tropez, is a prime example, and one of the few monuments of its magnitude to still stand today on France's southern coastline. In fact, the Saint-Tropez Citadel is one of the city's most visited historical and cultural sites, both for its history and its panoramic views over the bay. The citadel was built between 1602 and 1608, based on the drawings of engineer Raymond de Bonifant. The building, composed of a thick-walled hexagonal tower, a concealed interior courtyard, towers with cannon openings, and a bastioned outer wall, was used to defend the strategic port of Saint-Tropez, the most important strongholds between Antibes and Toulon for centuries. Its location on a hill with slopes bare of vegetation helped the military spot and bomb all vessels that came too close to the walls of the city. Aix-en-Provence Old Town, Aix, is the city's ancient heart, where people have lived and worked since Roman times. The area is home to some of the city's grandest buildings, as well as reminders of previous eras. It's one of the city's most vibrant quarters, home to shops, restaurants, and museums. The charming cobbled streets of Aix-en-Provence's Old Town bring visitors back in time to the medieval era when the winding streets of the city were protected by defensive walls. The remains of these ramparts are still visible on Rue Jacques de la Roque. Other historic ruins in the area include the former Roman pool, next to the entrance of the modern-day thermal baths. Aix has a mild climate that makes it an enjoyable destination all year round. The city comes to life on market days when locals and tourists pour into the city center to enjoy the bustling atmosphere and pick up groceries or shop for unique gifts and souvenirs. Along with tall, narrow buildings, you'll find several grand buildings in the Old Town, from the cathedral, dating in part to the 12th century and built on the site of the Roman Forum, the Town Hall, and the old belfry with its working astronomical clock, built in the 1500s on top of Roman foundations. 3 times a week the Old Town comes alive with market stalls selling everything from fruit and vegetables to antiques. The Old Town is always a popular destination with guided tours, and visitors can opt to join a tour to learn more about the town and its history. Located in the center of Avignon on the Rocher des Dames, Dames Rock, the Palais des Papes, Pope's Palace, is the largest building of its time. It was the theater of 6 conclaves between 1335 and 1394. The city of Avignon has an exceptional historical heritage listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which includes the Saint Benazet Bridge, better known as the Pont d'Avignon, ramparts, the Petit Palais, Avignon Cathedral, and finally, the Palais des Papes. The latter is one of the most visited historical buildings in France. From 1273 onwards, the popes fled Rome because they could no longer be safe, free, and independent there. In 1309, Clement V settled in Avignon, a papal land. The city occupies a central position in relation to the Christian world of the time and is conducive to trade. In addition, the Saint Benazet Bridge is a crossing point to reach Spain, Provence, and Italy. The construction of the Palais des Papes in Avignon began in 1335 and took less than 20 years. It is the work of two popes builders, first Benedict XII, who built the first pontifical palace, now called Old Palace, then Clement VI, his successor, who built new extensions, called New Palace. It is the largest Gothic palace in the world with 15,000 square meters of floor space, the equivalent of 4 Gothic cathedrals. The Palais des Papes is a residence, a monastery, the seat of power, and a fortress. The fortifications protect the property of the church as well as the spiritual leader of the place. From 1305 to 1377, 7 French popes sat in Avignon. The cliffs of the Calanques are a natural wonder nestled between Marseille and Cassis. This unique and breathtaking scenery is an absolute must-see in Marseille. With pebble and fine sandy beaches, and miniature fjords with turquoise waters, this biodiverse jewel is the perfect location to sunbathe, explore the seabed, or try yourself at some water sports such as kayaking. Whether you are planning a hike or merely enjoying the water and nature around you, this magnificent place will fulfill your every desire. Some Calanques are more accessible than others and are better suited for families. Other Calanques which are harder to reach will be perfect for hiking lovers, and their efforts will be well worth it. This one-of-a-kind location must not be missed when visiting Marseille. Built in the 1st century AD, the Arles Amphitheatre helped to make the city one of the largest Roman metropolises in Gaul. The arenas have survived for more than 2 millennia in an excellent state of preservation, resisting wars, epidemics, and the temptation of men to use them as stone quarries. As one of the best preserved ancient amphitheaters in Europe, they can be visited all year round and continue to host cultural and sporting events, perpetuating their original function. Arles has a rich historical heritage. The town has even been classified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The city that was nicknamed the Little Rome of the Gauls has one of the largest ancient French monumental complexes. Among these are of course the arenas, also known as the amphitheatre, which have made the city famous throughout the world, but also the Baths of Constantine, the Roman Theatre, the Cloister of St. Trophime, the Aliscamps, a necropolis dating from Roman times, and the Crypto Porticus of the Forum. Basilique Notre Dame de la Garde, Our Lady of the Guard, was designed by Jacques-Henri Esperandu with construction commencing on September 1853, and it took 11 years to be completed. The basilica is an architectural masterpiece, both structural and in interior adornment. Any visitor visiting the church would not miss the Good Mother, a 30-foot statue of Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus at the top of the cathedral's bell tower. The Aureate statue was installed around 1870 and it is re-gilded periodically after every 25 years. It is a pilgrimage site with thousands of pilgrims visiting annually for the Feast of Assumption on August 15th. The church also has deep historical significance with classical aspects that anyone would appreciate. Recent history is still visible on its northern walls as it bears scars of the Marseille Liberation War of 1944 with visible bullet markings, burns and shrapnel pockmarks. The historic church is also popular amongst Marseille visitors for its awesome panoramic view of Marseille since it is built on a naturally high ground. It stands on the 532 feet La Garde Hill. The superb panorama includes city view, the islands, and the vast sea. The Promenade of La Croisette is one of the most appreciated jewels of the city of Cannes. Linking the beach and the city, the Croisette is considered an attractive promenade par excellence. Written in 1943, these words still hold true today. The street has received the classification of picturesque site and presents a true invitation for idleness as you take in the sights. The Boulevard de la Croisette, which sits in Cannes on France's famous Riviera, was first suggested as an idea in 1853 and was finally approved in 1857. One of the most beloved boulevards in France, it is 2 kilometers long and home to many of Cannes' greatest landmarks. It has protected status in France and is a must-see for every visitor. At the eastern end of the Croisette is the Marché Ferville, Cannes' best-loved market. It closes at lunchtime, so this is the place to have your pre-lunch nibbles. Head to see one of the vendors, like Julian Roston, who is a specialist in organic vegetables. Buy some fresh olives or succulent tomatoes from him to munch as you walk, smell the fresh flowers, and taste some local wine. An afternoon wouldn't be Cannes without a trip to one of the most famous hotels on the Strip. The hotel was made famous in the 50s by Alfred Hitchcock. It's here that he filmed part of To Catch a Thief with Grace Kelly, and it plays host to celebrities every year during the Cannes Film Festival. After a walk around the hotel itself, arrive at your pre-reserved table for drinks. It's the perfect place to dine, under the parasols, on tables on the beach, facing the sea. The service is excellent, it's what you pay for, and the food is great. It's heavy on the budget, so if you can't afford it, eat at one of the other beach clubs, and have a drink here instead. After lunch, you'll need to take a little walk to work off the food. Head to the port and up the cobbled streets to Le Saquet, the oldest part of Cannes. It's not very big but perfect for a light walk. It overlooks La Croisette, so take a few photos as souvenirs and then head back to the boulevard for late afternoon. You might not want to be at the beach all day, so it's a good idea to head there for sunset. Stroll along La Croisette, watching all of Cannes life, and pick a sun lounger on a private Cannes beach for that all-important apéro, or lay out your towel on one of the many public beaches with some of the things you bought earlier at the market. Either way, it's a perfect way to see the sun go down before you head back to your hotel for dinner. Fountain de Vaucluse is truly one of the most visited places in the Vaucluse. In the summer months, the streets are literally crowded and the souvenir shops come at you from all angles. If you're looking for calm walks down the charming village streets, try and come in the morning. The success of the village is essentially due to the impressive spring which flows out of the 230 meters high cliff. This gigantic source is the most powerful on France and fifth in the world. 630 million cubic meters of water flow out every year. The emerald green calm summer waters become spectacular in the wet seasons, autumn and spring. 90 cubic meters of water per second spill into the bed of the river Sorgue. Promenade des Anglais in Nice is the most important attraction in the city. It stretches for 7 kilometers and provides an uninterrupted view of the azure sea and palm trees. Its name comes from the English aristocrats who came to Nice in the 18th century to enjoy the health benefits of the local climate. At that time, the shoreline was not so regular, and because the lords and their wives wanted to walk comfortably, a seaside promenade was built, with the hands and finances of the English people. The English names of the hotels, such as Westminster and West End, still bear witness to the influence of the islanders on this place. Today's promenade is not only a popular place for walks, but also for sports. A bike path runs throughout its entire length, and every now and then you can run into runners, roller skaters, or other sports enthusiasts. This place is so busy that it's easy to have an accident here. The Promenade des Anglais is also where many events are organized. It is here that part of the famous Nice Carnival takes place, as well as sporting events, exhibitions, and meetings. The promenade also leads to many interesting places and attractions in Nice. There are magnificent parks, museums, fashionable beaches, and, of course, luxury hotels and casinos. One of the most expensive hotels is the Le Negresco Hotel, in which Michael Jackson has stayed. From the Promenade des Anglais you can also reach Castle Hill and enter the Old Town of Nice. Going the other way you will pass the Messina Museum, which is housed in a beautiful villa with a magnificent garden. Further along you will reach the Museum of Fine Arts in Nice and, of course, the airport. During the high season, most planes come into land just above the Bay of Angels, which guarantees additional interesting impressions for people resting nearby. Emirates aircraft are especially low-flying. Port de Saint-Tropez is relatively small, with 734 berths for yachts up to 50 meters in length, and a maximum draft of 6 meters. This is the only marina in Saint-Tropez proper, and berths are extremely sought after. With a beguiling mix of old wooden sailing masts and gleaming superyachts, the beautiful fishing village of Saint-Tropez is perhaps the most famous yacht marina in the world. The viewport is basically the city center, the heart of the town, and one of the most popular Saint-Tropez attractions. The port of Saint-Tropez is full of tiny fishing boats, yachts, colorful houses and, of course, many chic cafes, so it is definitely worth visiting it. Saint-Tropez Beach is well known because Brigitte Bardot was here to film and God Created Woman in the 50s. If you are already in France and want to visit Saint-Tropez by boat during one day, there are multiple tours that you can take from Nice or Cannes. An ancient city outside Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. Over a century of archaeological excavation on the site at Glanum has revealed an outstanding collection of architectural relics. The local elite made good use of the natural resources, an endless water supply and limestone, to endow the city with monumental decoration that is unique in Provence. Set in the heart of the Alpia Mountains, at a major crossroads, the Gallic city is steeped in Greek and Roman influences and found prosperity from the 2nd century BC. From the belvederes, enjoy an exceptional view of the site before experiencing the healing properties of the sacred spring. It lay buried in the earth for 17 centuries until its discovery and excavations in 1921. The Celto-Ligurian Salians built it between the 4th and 3rd ND century BC by a spring that surfaces in the cleft of the mountain. They named their city after Glanus, the god associated with the healing spring. The Romans turned Glanum into a religious compound after they colonized the region and integrated it to the Roman Empire in 49 BC. Antic Glanum therefore boasts several temples dedicated to Roman gods, as well as sacred wells and fountains dedicated to healing. Rich in heritage, this colorful walking path allows a soft approach of the eastern Calanques, an ideal cocktail to discover and appreciate all the peculiarities of the Calanques National Park, while being fond of the beauty of Provence seascapes. Starting from the bustling fishing port of Cassis, from where you will enjoy the scenic view on the towering cliffs of Cap Canaille, you will reach the pebble little beach of Calanques de Port-Pin, this so pretty pine-fringed inlet. On your way back, you will be walking along Calanques de Port-Mu, its natural marina. So close to Nice and Monaco and yet so remote from everything, this little forested peninsula is the perfect place for those who look for peace and beauty, ramble along the pleasant coastal footpath all around the peninsula and take in magnificent views of the craggy coastline and the cobalt waters of the sea. If you wish, it is also possible to follow little streets and stairways up to the top of the peninsula that provides panoramic views and where a semaphore rises to 132 meters. One of the most famous roads in the world, the Grand Corniche between Nice and Monaco, is visible in Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief in the James Bond's GoldenEye. On this half-day hike, you will surely enjoy some of the finest views on the whole of the Riviera. It begins in La Turbie, small town perched on the heights overlooking Monaco. You follow the Grand Corniche before rising to Cime de la Forna, 350 feet higher. Walking then on the track built on the crest, capping the cliffs, you take in the superb coastal panorama. The steep descent on a pretty path down to the medieval hill town of Eze offers plunging views over the village and the Cap Ferrat Peninsula. You rapidly cross the Grand Corniche before meeting further down the Moyenne Corniche and reaching Eze. In winter, nothing beats a walk on this coastal pathway between Bandol and Saint-Cyr-sur-Mer. Leaving the pretty little port of La Madrague, you enjoy scenic views over the beautiful bay of La Ciotat. Once you have passed the first 2 points, the path offers you the opportunity to look at the sea as far as the eye can see. From February onwards, a growing number of plants blossom, bringing a very colorful touch to the hike in this season. Halfway along the route, you reach the highlight of the hike, the charming cove of Port d'Alone, its pebbly little beach and its cabanon. The feeling of having been worlds away. Thanks for watching. Please do not forget to subscribe, like and share our videos.